Welcome
Yeah,
everyone. Today I am meeting with my beautiful business partner and friend Lara, who is ICF Master Coach. You're over 25 years of experience in the field, right? And
that's right. 30 years, but who's
30
counting?
years
Oops.
in the field. And my background is online education, marketing. I've been a digital marketer for 15 years. The last 5 years, I've been specialized in helping coaches and online educators marketing their things. And through backwards integration, I also became an online educator myself, and I am learning all my coaching skills from the lovely Lara. Together, we started at the end of last year an ICF accredited AI and coaching certification, where Lara is teaching and handling and delivering the coaching part, and I teach and handle and deliver the marketing part. And in this video, we want to give you our predictions for the knowledge and coaching industry for 2026. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely it does. Because I think as we've been going through the certification as well, things have been bubbling up. We've been having some incredible discussions. And I think that's really sparked the thinking for both of us around what does it mean for coaching? What does AI mean for marketing? And how can we best leverage and support and continue to equip people and have these insights? Like where is it going? And, is it a bubble? Isn't it a bubble?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? So let's kick off. What's prediction number one for you, Evelyn?
So my number one prediction is that there is going to be a lot of divide. So there is going to be a lot of cultural divide around artificial intelligence. There will be people that are very excited about it, and we have those different schools of thoughts like accelerationists, doomers, right? So we have all of these different schools of thoughts, and people have different sentiments towards AI. And
Yeah.
what we're seeing emerging right now is there's a lot of AI hate as well. And I
Yeah.
honestly want to say, like, from my perspective, all of the schools of thought, all of the belief settings, they do have valid points. But, maybe coming from a little bit of a growth mindset, like we need in coaching, and also like a circle of control mindset, I believe that this is my prediction. The people that can work on understanding their field, building their philosophy, and decipher what is within my circle of control, and
Yeah.
within that, how can I protect, leverage, maximize my position so that I can provide and care for and help others as we're moving as a whole humanity through this transition. I believe that those people will be best off. And maybe Lara, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's it's so true. We've got people out there who are saying, AI is a bubble, AI won't take off. People who are embracing it and saying it's here to stay. How can I leverage AI and use it in a way that enhances my capability, but doesn't replace my credibility, that doesn't replace my competence, that doesn't replace, I guess, my ability to be really effective and have agency as a coach, as a human, as a business owner. And so there are so many opportunities out there, I think, that AI provides us with in terms of raising the floor. So by that, I mean, we've seen things like making our systems more productive, making the routine tasks that we do simpler, more effective, quicker. We're able to do things much more quickly than we were before. But it's also raising the ceiling in the sense of people are recognizing that people are wanting connection, they're wanting trust, they're wanting credibility, they're wanting, if we talk about coaches, they want people who have presence, who have training, who know what they're doing. And I think so we're elevating at both levels. And I think that in order to be really effective, no matter what business you're in, you need to be able to leverage both for that capability, that productivity, right? Streamlining processes and systems, but also for taking the opportunity to elevate those other human skills that aren't necessarily supported or developed through AI use, if that makes sense.
That makes
So,
that makes
yeah.
total sense. And I want to riff like a little bit on that, what you said, like with the it raises the floor, but it also raises the
Yeah.
ceiling. So you just talked
Yeah.
about skills and things that we need to develop as a human. I think that this will actually be key in 2026 for people, is to understand where they should upskill right now in a way that it actually creates moat, right? So a lot of things we can learn right now and basically waste our time on evolving, that very soon AI, and already in a lot of frontier models, a lot of premium AI where you pay for free premium subscription, there are a lot of things that are, or you still learn that the AI can already perfectly do for you. So I think that it's very important for you right now to understand what skills are worth acquiring right now, where you want to kind of almost aggressively go into upskilling mode, so that you can then leverage the tools that we have that are evolving right now in their best ability. And I want to throw some at you, and maybe you can add some, Lara, from a coaching perspective, from a marketer's perspective. I believe that from the AI skill side, what you now need to become, and honestly, it's just like leveraging the foundations of marketing, is like you need to be an excellent communicator, which, you know, also so important for coaching. So maybe we can talk about that. But you need to be an excellent communicator, articulating what you need and what quality you need it, but also having, for example, that empathy for your clients to a degree and in a nuance that AI can never understand. I see this, for example, with Meta's AI Andromeda update. My role right now as a media buyer is I'm in that messy middle arbitraging which angles and personas and expressions AI can find and what I can find with my nuanced understanding of human psychology and my market, so I can bridge that gap between what AI understands about our humanness and our desires and needs and wants, and what I deeply understand because I am in the market. So I think the communication skills, the empathy, that is massive. And then also, because you talked about agency, Lara, it's so interesting. Like, how do we maintain our agency as we make AI our agents? And there we will have to have management skills at a new level, you know, which people maybe only have needed when they are part of a big organization and they manage. So I'm also curious to hear, what type of management skills do you think like coaching naturally already requires from us? And last but not least, we also have, or it's not last but not least, but very important as well, I believe, is your domain expertise. And because you will be sending the agents off to do the work, you'll need to have first you need to have the vision. Okay, what do I want to create? Then you need to be able to communicate it clearly. Then you need to be able to manage, send off, check in, send out again. And then ultimately you need to be able to curate and validate that output with your domain expertise and your human taste. It kind of goes back to the empathy again and to understanding humans. So those are the true skills that will be required for marketing. And just creating random content, that's what people call slop. That's where we fire and trigger into the hate. So that's kind of the what we don't need to have. So that's kind of from my marketing kind of ramble side, is like developing the domain expertise in the marketing, in your vision, in your skill set, and in your taste. That's kind of where it's at. And then vision building, communication, management are the super skills that now you absolutely need to develop. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with all of that. And I think it's really interesting because, you know, you're now seeing marketing at volume, right? Because everyone can be a marketer. And I think you are seeing slop, right? Because there is not necessarily that level of discernment as to, I'm going to actually read through this. We're seeing a lot of people just put a prompt into AI, get the prompt out, copy paste it. And, you know, people are aware of things like M dashes and things like that, but there is no level of review, or does this resonate? And I think what's happening is, you're absolutely right, we've got volume and then we get fatigue, and people are getting annoyed because they're like, this is just content that's created from AI. Where's the humanness? Where's the empathy? Where's the communication? Where's the understanding? Where's the storytelling? Right? And I think, you know, in marketing and in coaching as well, when we use metaphors to help our clients to perhaps have those breakthrough moments, we need to be adept at storytelling from a place of perspective, not from a place necessarily, and experience in a way, right? Rather than from a place of, let me just ask, what can I tell a story about that's relevant here? Because people will resonate and people recognize when something's authentic and when it's not.
Yeah.
right? And I think, and in terms of communication, this is something, again, that is such an important skill in coaching, because communication isn't just about the words that we're using. It's about recognizing that we choose to use those words, that there are patterns in our expressions, that we have patterns of body language, we have patterns of our facial expressions, the tone of our voice. We can, as human coaches, we can detect excitement, we can detect apathy. And that's something that at this stage, AI is unable to do. And I think the more that we can develop those skills of being fully present, having empathy, being able to pay attention to our clients as coaches, the more effective that we're going to be. And again, goes so far beyond just being able to say, create 10 questions for me. I'm coaching a client around X. Because if you're actually taking those questions, but you're not using your own capability, your own level of discernment before you're asking them, there's a mismatch, right? And you might as well be reading a shopping list,
Yes.
right? So, because it just simply doesn't have that impact. So having that level, I think you called it management, right? Where it's like, what is the output? There needs to be a step in between input, output, and then dissemination of the output, right? And I think that's something that's really, really critical. And so what sort of checks and balances do you think we need to be having, whether that's marketing output or output for coaching? What do we need to be doing?
That's such an excellent question. And it goes back to something you said, I think, even in our kickoff session for the certification, where you put it beautifully in words and you said, whatever you have, AI will mirror and amplify it. And that trickles down into the output. I believe that we need to right now have the ambition, and we need to take charge and responsibility and develop that vision for saying, no, we are going into the driver's seat. So that means that the responsibility, or how we think about outputs, it actually starts with what do we input? And to get to the point of what do we input, we need to again say, who do I need to become to effectively manage those things, right? So it's like right now we're required to rethink our identity, because up until this point, we got rewarded for our knowledge work. And I don't believe that pure knowledge work is what is required from us right now. It actually goes a lot deeper. So the input is to say, what's the vision for myself that I want to become as a coach, an educator, a marketer, a human being in this age right now? Is it really the most productive thing I can do to withdraw, say it's all bad and it's all slop, and is that the most productive thing that I can do? Am I contributing? And at the same time, if I'm like, ooh, that's an opportunity for me to crank out content like crazy and take advantage of short-lived arbitrage opportunities, so I sell a cookie cutter automation to my local bakery, right? Is that really the most productive thing that you can do right now? So I think like going back and to say, who do I want to be right now in this phase? What is required from me? And then approaching it from a like, what's the best I can do perspective for my domain expertise, for the vision of what do I actually want to do, how do I want to help people, etc. And with that intention and that awareness that, and I'm so humbled right now, because I'm going in with, there's so much I don't know. I need to become so much better as a human, as an educator, as a leader, as a coach. I'm so aware of and I think AI helped me to see how small I am still in many of these regards. And I try to approach it from a growth mindset and say, okay, where are the areas where I can up level right now with the help of AI right now, right? So what do I need to be? And then we can approach the input. And then we again have like this divide between people, right, that are just using it, so people rejecting it, people that are using it, casual users, and then people that go in, and that's a part, I think, of the certification, what we wanted to bring, that awareness of your responsibility, right? What are you doing? How are you approaching it? Do you know, I saw this study, Lara, 50% of Americans, and obviously it's a poll, right? So we always want to take it with a grain of salt, but 50% of Americans that participated in that poll, they believe that ChatGPT is retrieving answers from a database. So it shows us, right, how far a lot of people are off to even understand the fundamentals of the most common tools we're using. And we lack basic AI literacy. How many people in the certification were shocked when we told them the data you input goes into the training data. You did a whole module on, maybe you can talk about this, but you did a whole module on what client data can you not input, because at the end of your day, it's your responsibility, right? So it starts with the input, then the iterative prompt engineering, prompting techniques, being able to go back and forth. And then now I'm only talking about large language models, right? But those are the tools most of us are using right now. Being able to go back and forth to produce the output, and then validating that output carefully, right? Not just throwing it out there, validating it, making sure it is efficient, effective, ethical, and safe. So those are the things that we're really, really focused on. Maybe you can talk to that, because you did so much work around awareness and around how do we tackle it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the whole module around ethics and application and what you can and can't do or shouldn't do led to such vibrant discussions. And I think part of it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I don't know. And, you know, a lot of that around maintaining confidentiality, it shifts the minute you start to put information into AI, you know, client privacy. Models are being trained based on that data. And actually, is this information from my notes that I'm putting into AI anonymized or not? And we saw some really interesting outputs that AI could actually detect for us, you know, a lot more from the information that we put in, no matter how much we try to anonymize it, than we may have first thought. One of the things that scared me very much initially was that we heard a lot of people talking about they were inputting their coaching transcripts into AI. And again, that was without explicit permission. But also, even when people give their permission, do they realize where that is going, you know, where that information's going? And it was very interesting to notice how readily and easily we could get outputs from AI based on generic kind of questions and information that led to specificity, but not just specificity, but AI was convinced that this is the right answer and the only way to go. And I think that also speaks very much to that level of discernment and that level of capability and integrity and really looking at ourselves. And I think AI is a learning curve. It has been challenging. It is something that people are like, oh my gosh, you know, in my industry, AI is going to replace coaches. And one of the things that I believe is that AI will not replace coaches. It'll only replace the coaches who haven't got the skill to coach in the first place. And certainly there are some foundational coaching type activities, maybe around goal setting and things like that, some self-coaching practices that AI is very adept at doing. But when it comes into those deeper layers where we want empathy, where we want insight, where we want those different layers, you know, that's where human coaching really does come into its own. And I think when we speak about resistance around AI as well, I think partly it's because people are afraid of the unknown, right? We don't know what we don't know. And there is a lot of fear-mongering, right? There's a lot of rhetoric out there. You know, AI is going to take all our jobs. And you only have to go onto YouTube, and there's video after video saying capitalism as we know it is over. The world as we know it is over. So I think when you take it from the perspective of how can I leverage, how can I be along for the ride? How can I use it in a way that is in integrity with who I am, that serves me, but also helps me to more effectively serve the people that I serve, whether you're a coach, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a local hairdresser, whatever your role is, right? How can I do that in a way that is in integrity? And yeah, I mean, I think it's not necessarily even the early adopters who are going to be most successful. I think it's the intelligent and the astute and by intelligent, I don't mean cognitive intelligence. I mean emotionally intelligent. I mean generally intelligent people who are thinking, how can I apply this in a really meaningful way? I think so it's not too late as well for people. I think that's
honestly, I believe
we're just at the beginning.
We're just in the beginning, and we're at a point in time where the tools and capabilities and options are emerging so fast that even experts, or I would not say even expert, I would think especially an expert, right? I feel like in my online education journey, in my journey as a marketer, I have come to a point where I understood how little I know, right? So I believe
Yeah.
it's like it's when we look at the Dunning-Kruger curve, like there's a point where we are at the peak of ignorance, right? But then we get like very, very humbled, and slowly we work our way back up. And so I believe that, and the people, for example, that are now in coding with Claude Code, there's been massive momentum. People say that it is the AGI of coding right now with those breakthroughs. And so there was a post, I think it was Andrew Carpathy, I'm not sure who it was, but coder who said that they now feel behind because of this, right? And I feel like we as experts in our domain, having so many years, we start to feel behind in the seismic shifts. And I think like for people that are, maybe earlier in the journey, or that they're not paying so much attention to the space, they might actually still be in that mindset of, oh, it's not going to go anywhere. I tried it once. It was not really good. Like, how could this replace me, right? So we have the peak ignorance. And then at the other end, we have the people that are like, okay, it's going to be a crazy ride from here on, because capabilities are improving faster than I can learn. What's the latest model that we can use? So as you kind of said, I think now, and I truly believe that the truth is that nobody knows. Nobody knows how many jobs will it really replace, in what form, right? It will also have very disruptive elements to it, right? So it's like when you think about the horse, right? It's like the horse was not replaced with a robot horse. It was replaced with a car. So we will see a lot of maybe jobs completely like shifting, but not in a way that we, with our normal bias, are thinking about it. It will actually look very different. And what we can do is, like you said, going back to ourselves and saying, and looking at the big picture and say, what skills with our best knowledge right now will we predict will be worth acquiring right now, and then leaning into acquiring those skills, the domain skills, the human skills, the AI skills. And I think with AI skills, right, if you think about it, it's probably not as productive for you to go out and research and learn every single tool. It's probably more productive for you to look at which companies are the big players. What does the landscape look like? What are they trying to build and why, right? So you can kind of, instead of like being, oh, tool, oh, next tool, you're like, where are we going, right? So what's being built and why? Like when you now look at how AI is funding formal education, right? Like where they are pushing. So I think that those are the clues that you need to follow. And if you really truly want to be AI literate, it's a layer for you to understand, right? So there's the foundational literacy, what we talked about, the ethics, the safety, how these models work in general. But then there's also the top layer of literacy for you to create a plan for you, like where do I pay attention, right? And also knowing like those short-lived things, they actually rob you your time, because then you always are like in reaction mode, right? You never have that big vision. And that's also why we created the space the way we did, as an annual opportunity to have a container where we can have those discussions and exchanges on that level, and we're not triggering people with fear or with opportunity, because I think both is equally triggering, or with the latest like next hype thing, but where we get really, really practical, but also have like that forward thinking discussion, so people can get themselves to a place where they're very resilient for themselves, for their clients, for their loved ones.
And I think, and that's such an important point, because I think one of the interesting pieces of research that I read just the other day was that there's something interesting with adoption and change in relation to AI. And I can't remember who it is now, but there was unfortunately, I do apologize, but there was a graph that was shown that was typically when people try new technology, right, they'll try it and they'll like it or they won't. And very rarely, I think only about 1% or 2% will ever go back and try again, right? So if you think about things like Canva or Notion or whatever, people try something, Asana, whatever it is, they try something, no, not for me, didn't like it, didn't feel right, etc. But with AI, what they've found is that people are actually giving it another go. And they're giving it another go to the tune of 40% instead of 0.1% or 2%. And so that's an incredible shift, I think, in change. And from a change management perspective, it means that people, whilst they may not necessarily be receptive initially. Maybe they're initially like, oh, I don't understand it. I don't know how to use it. How does it apply? There is still that appetite to say,
Yeah.
there might be something to this. I'm going to give it, another go. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember when the internet was never going to take off. Right.
Yes.
Or cash machines were never going to take off either. So it's really interesting. And I don't know whether that's to do with the fact that it is so prevalent that more people are starting to use it and talk about it, or what it is. Or maybe people are just finding different versions. Maybe they're going from ChatGPT to Claude to Perplexity to Gemini to all of those different things and thinking, actually, I like this one, but not that one. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that in terms of adoption and
Like from an
change?
advertisement perspective and what I see working in advertising right now, right? So, which is based on the algorithm changes that Meta made around the Andromeda update. So, I think they're like at the very forefront of understanding what drives human behavior, right? For advertising, if you think about that. And when we see how this algorithm works, right? And I spent millions at the moment on it and it gives me so much intuition, quote unquote, about it. It's just so much data that I'm exposed to. I think that what makes adoption is, what do people like me do, right? And so what we see with AI is there's more people like me now doing something with it, and that's my second go at it, right? So when we think like coaches in the beginning were excited, and when we talk about coaches, online educators, I truly believe like where the online world has taken things since COVID, almost every coach has to be an email marketer now. Almost every coach has to be a content creator now, right? So it's like it has shifted like a lot from I have my little coaching practice, maybe more akin to how somebody would have a therapist practice, right? That now more and more there is the requirement to have a podcast or to have that credibility. And I think that was also there, like people like me, coaches like me now post on social media, right? So it's and I think the same is going to be with AI. It's like coaches like me are now using AI ethically. So maybe it's worth taking a second look, right? So I think that's what we see is just the adoption progresses to a point where people can see role models, people in their space using it in a way that is truly transformative for them, actually saves them time, is actually good. And that's typically when people are like, okay, I really now need to get behind this. I really now need to get to know it. And that's unfortunately also, I feel like what the pattern that I see is like, once people kind of recommit again, they consume everything and then they basically get consumed into this initial bubble. And I think this happened to me actually in 2013, right? So I was like relatively early because I think digital marketing also was one of the earlier adapters of it. So I got for 6 months, I had a full on confusion. I was feeling lost. I would have days where I would feel deeply depressed, hopeless, anxious, confused. Like I was having excited. I was having all the feelings. I don't know if you remember this, but we had a digital product bakery with AI where I was introducing from a YouTube creator I very much admire his AI safety protocol because I was so worried about it and I funded like this because I wanted to bring that awareness to my audience. And now a few years later, I understand, now that safety has been institutionalized, there isn't maybe not as high of an X risk as we thought. Now looking back, it feels silly, right? That I was even like thinking along these lines or worried to that extent. But I reckon like a lot of people are going now through that experience. And I know how terrible I felt and how thrown around. I was feeling like I'm a stone in a washing machine, I was feeling so pushed around. And I know a lot of people are going through these changes right now. And our goal is, I think, with what we try to do is to create like a safe haven for our people, whereas like we can provide context, we can have those meaningful discussions, we can provide a grounding.
And people can experiment, right? People can experiment. And also, as you said, because we do have a space that's for a year, right? People can dip in and out. They can get tossed around and then they can come back and then they can dip in and out and
that was actually such a humbling experience for me because when I did my prompt engineering mastery module, of course, I had that ambition to make it really valuable. And my estimation for where people's baseline was not, I was very far off. So I basically overwhelmed them a little bit, right? And then now we're pulling it back and I take things slower. But for me, it was, I was like a slap in the face, wake up call to see
Mm.
again like this really big gap, because we also have people in the certification that were like, oh yes, more of that, faster, right?
Yes.
And then we
Yeah.
had people that were like, I feel rug pulled right now. I might,
Mm.
need to sleep for a couple of days, and maybe
Yeah.
I need a shot after
Yeah.
this was a wild ride that you took me through now. But
Exactly.
it made me understand first of my limitations as an educator, like how I need to go about using AI and making this better, tailoring it better for different audiences, offering different opportunities to consume it. But then also like that scary divide, and honestly, like I am worried now that I've seen where the majority of people starts. I'm worried
Mm.
because I believe, they're casual users at best, and
Mm.
they're just gonna, it's just gonna get drift
Yeah. Yeah.
faster, quicker.
Mm. Yeah. And the same, I mean, the same applied, didn't it, really, to coaching, right?
Yes,
We expected
true.
that it would be, and then I'd done all
Yes.
this work to prepare these models, I guess thinking that there would be a baseline of a certain level, like you with AI, and we had to very quickly re-engineer some of the elements of the program to make sure everyone's got those foundations. And I'm really glad that we did that. And I'm really glad that we both went through that experience, because we almost finished our beta program for the certification. And I think giving ourselves the opportunity to put things out there, test them, to see what the appetite was, also to see where people are in both of those skill sets and levels of understanding has been really powerful, because what it means is now we can go back and we can say, okay, so we've got this certification, and then maybe there's a beginner level, or maybe there's and we've reworked, haven't we? Have done some pre-work and done some additional modules, because we don't want to be, see you later, we're leaving you behind. We want to be bringing people with us every step of the way. And we also want to make sure that and this is one of the challenges, right, of author creation and education delivery, is we also want to make sure that the people are like, give me more, let's go, that we also have something for them as well. And I think we're getting there in terms of the balance. Certainly, we've got 100. I think we've got 100 people in as we speak at the moment, and I think we're getting there in terms of the balance. And I think one of the things that kind of moving into now as well, and that was important for both of us, was around leveraging AI to help create offers, because offers kind of sit in the middle bit, right? They sit in the middle of marketing. What am I marketing? I'm marketing my offers, but they also sit in coaching, because if I've got an offer, how am I going to deliver it? I see a lot of people create offers and then be like, oh, what do I do now? Right? How do I actually coach in that offer? How do I deliver it? How do I engage with the client? How do I make sure that my client is actually getting that transformation, that I'm helping to facilitate that transformation that I've promised? Because that's the difference, isn't it, between having great marketing and then having credible coaching, like having that pull through. And I know that that's something both of us are really passionate about. You don't just market something, you deliver it, right?
I think
And
this
so,
is a really good point that you made, because I think that's also one of my key predictions for the next year, is that the value of pure knowledge, pure information will go down to zero. And so what our role is, of course, that manager, curator, having the final output, but we cannot just give the final output to people and trust that they will know how to use it, right? So very, very, very humbling from our experience to see, right? How far can the difference be in all of your different student types? And if you sell something, it is your responsibility to that the product works, and the product doesn't work just because the information is good or correct. It is a part of, and this is where we will see what people are willing to pay for, is getting the result that was promised. I mean, this is so obvious, but unfortunately in this space it is not so obvious. It's like that the product needs to work, and a part of making the product work is the prototyping, like we're doing it right now, is making the iterations, is adding that community element, because that's truly where the transformation is happening. And we had a little chat before our call, where we were talking about that. And in our marketing module, I did the big marketing weekend where we set up the systems and gave people a folder, and it was really intended to be plug and play. And we did have a little bit of resistance around, oh, but that is like one specific system. Can I not do it my way, or can I not do it like this and that?
Yes.
And so we were initially discussing, oh, should we offer options? And then it's like, for me personally, it's out of integrity, because based on everything I'm seeing right now happening to websites, search traffic collapsing because of AI preview, how platforms are changing the algorithms in a way that, even if you were successful on Instagram last year, right, and you got a ton of clients,
Yes.
this can be over, and very likely with where the interest graph is going, will be over overnight, right? So where do we really build so that we create that mode, and that we, again, our time is so scarce now. We need it for skill building. We need it for evolution. We need it to create transformation. Where do we spend our time? So for me, it's important to say, look, this is where I'm focused on, and I can reveal it now. A big part of that is community, because of the transformation element, the product quality component, but also because from a marketing perspective, funnels are breaking away. And I did have a funnel product I was selling very well. Ethically, we stopped selling it a while ago, because I was realizing funnels is not the future. The future of marketing is platform communicates to platform, AI augmented. We tailor the exact message in the exact quality to the exact person at the exact point in time, and everything kind of gets just pushed through. So is it really good for us to give you, here's how you use AI to create your Instagram posts, if that is not what you should be focusing on right now, right? And so it's important to start opening up that discussion. And obviously, if there's demand, serving it with that context. So community, I believe, will be very important. We also had that discussion around, I am an investor in Skool. I run their ads. So obviously, people might think, oh, you're biased, or you just want to push that platform. The truth is, I had a very successful business, and Lara has been with me since then. Outside of Skool, I saw Skool emerge, and I got really scared, because I was like, if this is true, the game will change. Competed in first games, realized this is true. So I gave up a program where I won a 2 Comma Club award with. I made over $1 million with the product, because I was like, this is the future. And being willing to say, yes, I did a lot of work here, but now it's not serving me anymore. And I need to move on. That will be something that will be required from everyone. Everyone will be having to be okay with the quote unquote sunk cost, and say, now I need to create something new. Now I need to reinvent myself and the things again, and do the work. And community is one of the most stable containers actually that we have right now in the space.
Yeah. And I think it goes, and it also does that and more, because I think it also steps into, I think one of my predictions was that trust is going to be the new currency, right? Relationship is the new currency. Getting to see people in action, being able to see that you're credible. And in order to do that, people need to interact with you beyond a social media post or a blog post, right? And community, as I've learned very much from you, community is one of the most powerful ways that we can do that, right? Because in community, we can, engage with people. We can engage people in a semi-live interactive environment. We can deliver, we can demonstrate our values, we can demonstrate, our expertise, our credibility, our genuine care, our genuine concern. And I think it's such a valuable platform. And the other thing that it enables us to do as well is to be present with our people in that community. People want to have connection, right? They really want that. And I remember something that really struck me. So I've got a greyhound who's howling in the background. Bless her. And it was interesting, because I think she knew that I was going to make this point, which is, I heard Gary Vee a while ago talk about the fact that people will be hiring other people to go for a walk with them, because they want that connection, in the same way that we hire a dog walker if we can't walk our dog, right? So I think community is such a brilliant vehicle for doing that, for building that trust, building those relationships. And you're such a great example of the fact that that is true even before you moved onto the Skool platform. I mean, that's been something that's been the cornerstone of your work.
Sorry. I do predict that we all need to learn to be better community builders, though, because I think it's a mental model that is an easy word, right? And we're throwing it around. But what does it really mean to build a community, and then also build coaching and transformation container. And this is again where I was looking to you, and I got a big awakening when I was having my mastermind last year that I eventually
Yeah.
closed because I did not have the expertise. I had the expertise to build our community, but I did not have the expertise to build a mastermind transformation container. And both of
Yeah.
those actually are important. It's like you have to understand, how do I build community, which is something that
Yeah.
I'm good at. But then it's also,
Yes.
what does the container setting need to look like? Because that often, unfortunately, is an afterthought, right? So I think the container right now will be for how dynamic the world is going. We're almost building
Yeah.
a refugee for our clients, our people. And when we do so, we need to be very mindful of the systems we choose, the intention we set behind. We need to learn the skills of how to engage a community, how to show up, how to be a
Yeah.
community leader, but then also say, how do I configure that container
Yeah.
to really drive transformation? And that, I think, is something where I learned a lot from you. And even during the certification, I'm learning a lot from you because you make me aware of like certain things. Hey, do you maybe want to communicate it like this, or we have to set the boundary like that? And I'm like, got it, right? So I learned so much from you, just witnessing you in the space and seeing how this is done. And I think, again, those are the type of skills that are so important. They're so human. It's like, you can ask an AI, it will never give you a good answer for this.
Yeah.
How do you do this? And the other thing is, like, it can even give you the correct answer. When I started my online marketing journey, I've been in marketing before, and then I did Facebook ads for corporates. But when I started personal branding, I did buy the Expert Secrets book from Russell Brunson, and I read it, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's a good book, but I was so lost. Then I went through the transformation, becoming expert, and I I listened to the audiobook again when I was driving with Danny to a holiday, and he was sleeping, and I was like, oh, he told me everything. Everything was there. Why did I not know? And kind of similar things can happen when AI gives you the right answer. You read it and you're
Yeah.
like, but you have to see someone doing it. You have to
Yeah.
experience how it feels and how it moves, and then you're like, that was just the words for it. But that's, I think,
Yes.
what's also the power of being in community is the way others show up, the way our
Yeah.
leaders show up, the way we show up as leaders. It's like, that's where we understand what it feels like and what we need to do, so we can learn and transform so much just by being in proximity and having those role models around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so, it's that experiential nature. It's what I call the penny dropping moment, right? When it's suddenly like, and you can hear something in 50 different ways, and it might be the 51st way that you hear it that really lands with you. And that's so, and because we are all different, we all sometimes do need different messages, and it lands differently. And it's often why you read a book once and then you read it again, and you're like, oh, I hadn't picked that up last time.
Yes.
And that's also the benefit, I guess, of being in the community where even though we are the leaders of this community, we're not the only people there, and we're not the only leaders in the community, because we've got everyone in that community is contributing and sharing value, and they've got life experience and experience from all different niches. And that's one of the brilliant things too, is I think, and that's maybe another prediction for 2026, we're going to be much more open and receptive to learning in new ways, and not necessarily always learning from people who are experts, but also through walking a journey with someone else and learning by looking over their shoulder and their experiences. And that's one of the things that I've loved in your communities, as people are maybe following your challenges, for example, is a really good one, is that you see that interaction and people are learning from one another's successes, from one another's challenges, as much as they are from you. So I think that's really, really, really positive. So we've had quite a few predictions. I think, I'm not sure that we've covered all of them, but I think
I think we could go on for a long time. Maybe we want to close, like, where's your sentiment on the spectrum from concerned to excited, and what are you maybe most concerned or most excited about for the next year? And then we'll close it like this. So I would love for you, if you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think my answer for concerned and excited depends on the day, right? Okay. And it depends.
It depends. Actually, accurate.
because I think one of the things that I'm concerned about personally is that lack of discernment potentially. And sometimes I will use AI and I'll be like, oh, that sounds great, and then I read through and I'm like, oh my gosh, errors in there. But if I'd have just posted it, or if I'd have just shared it or used it as a basis without fact checking. So my concern is for myself as well. We're just taking things as read, as fact based. And so I want people to really be using it as a partner, as a tool, but not as a replacement for themselves, right?
Yes.
And I think my excitement is that we can use AI as a tool, that we can enhance our capability. We can use it to lift the floor and raise the ceiling, because we're going to have time to raise the ceiling, right? If we're using AI in a way to increase our productivity and our effectiveness at that level, then what can we use the time for? We can use it for raising the ceiling and becoming even more effective. Yeah, off the cuff. That's for
Very
me. What about
beautiful. Very,
you?
very beautiful. Okay, then let me also do one that is concerned
Yeah,
and
yeah.
one that is excited. So I'm most concerned that our nervous system and animal
Mm,
brain will take over and we will close. So I think
yeah,
that's my biggest concern is people closing and not having the
yeah.
openness and the
Mm,
courage to keep exploring and to keep finding themselves. I think this is also identity
mm,
based, very, very much identity based.
yeah,
I'm scared. I've built my life to my expertise, and what is it worth,
mm,
right? So I think it will
yeah,
be
yeah.
a lot like identity based. I hope our animal brains don't take over. I hope we can be open. I hope we can be in high spirit. I hope we can do good spiritual hygiene. I think it's easier
Mm,
if we do it together. So that's where I'm concerned. I'm concerned that the pressure and the uncertainty will get the worst out of us, right? Which we
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
have. We
Mm.
have all the sides of the dice in us, and that's what I'm concerned about
Mm,
as an individual, as a community, as a society, as a whole of humanity. That's my biggest
yeah, yeah,
concern. Is like slipping into that very low conscious state. I hope we can stay conscious. I hope we can stay grateful. I hope we
yeah.
can stay curious. I hope we can stay kind. And then for the positive side, for the excitement side, I'm as a marketer, as an online educator, as a businesswoman, I am beyond excited because I know that right now the capabilities are really, really high, and that
Yeah.
the market adaptation and understanding of that is by far not there. So if you are an expert, an educator, a coach, a leader, somebody who can guide others, who is not afraid to explore and play and translate, I mean, this is a
Yeah.
golden age for you, right?
Mm.
There's so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
that can be gained in that middle of translating, like I showed you with Facebook ads, right? I'm just the
Yeah.
translator, right? And there is
Yeah.
enormous financial gains. I can create value because of
Mm.
that. And it's not only the financials you can do, but also how I can use that to shift what's happening in the world, right? So if it feels
Mm.
like very, very powerful. It feels very leveraged.
Yeah.
And we can do this, I think, at so many levels right now. And so I think the people that are ready to go into uncertainty, that are, like the curious, that open heart, what they can do is they can pull the others up onto that and say,
Mm.
hey, don't be scared, don't be overwhelmed, right? See the
Yeah.
opportunity, see it even as an opportunity to advocate. Who will take you serious if you advocate against certain decisions that are made in AI if you don't know the first thing about it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's also, it's like, if you want to make a
Mm.
difference, get educated. Get yourself
Yeah,
ready.
yeah.
Get yourself to a position where you have a big community around you, where your voice
Yeah, yeah.
matters, right? And so I think that
Mm.
that's the biggest thing that I'm excited about, is empowering individuals and creating that value in the middle and lifting people up and increasing your own agency, your own
Yeah.
impact during these times where a lot of people either are just off and capitalize, or they're just chasing the trends, or they're like shut down, right? It's like
Yeah,
being
yeah.
in that middle between those things. I think is very, very exciting right now. And yeah, I hope
Yeah,
that
yeah.
a lot of people will be there with us in the trenches
Yeah.
and figure things out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, this is one thing to let people know too, is this is part of the first and I guess part of series of conversations that we're going to be having about AI and what's happening in AI and what's happening in coaching and what's happening in business and community. And so, yeah, we'll be sharing some things that have happened, you know, for us, things that we're noticing, things that are showing up, things that we're worried about, things that we're concerned about, things that we maybe don't understand ourselves. And so, yeah, we'd love everyone to come along for the ride.
Absolutely. So if you found this helpful, this was definitely like a deeper dive, but I think it was also an opportunity for us to show where we think things
Yeah,
are headed and what minds and hearts we're
yeah,
bringing to the case. And yeah, for
yeah.
future things, we're looking forward to keep you up to date in a way that feels truly
Mm.
informing and empowering and not
Yeah,
just overwhelming. And yeah, we're looking forward to see you in the next episode, I would say.
yeah, absolutely. See everyone then.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.